Our old friend Piers Morgan is once again trying to figure out the Middle East, muddling about a bit. And he has on former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, but he starts off with current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's see what Piers has to say.
The only way to deal with all this is by facing up to the reality of extremism on both sides and for all decent people to reject it. The issue British MPs should have been debating freely and openly is the urgent question of whether it's time for Israel's allies to call for an end to this war. Prime Minister Netanyahu...
Wait, let me just get this straight. Israel's allies were going to call for an end to this war? What kind of ally is that? An ally doesn't tell you to stop a war that you're defending your peoplehood and your life. Your ally supports you. So I'm a little bit confused, Piers. What do you mean? You think that Israel's allies should tell it what to do? If I'm an ally, I'm like, you go get him, Tiger. You take care of business, and I'm right behind you here, bro. But instead, Piers Morgan thinks that allies are supposed to stop Israel. That doesn't exactly make sense to me. But I told you, he gets confused a little bit. So let's keep going.
Netanyahu again says no amount of pressure will stop him.
Our brave soldiers proved them all wrong on all counts. Many also argued that Israel's military campaign would scuttle our ability to release the hostages. Well, they were wrong on this one too. Military pressure led to the release of 110 hostages, and only continued military pressure will bring home the remaining hostages.
Well, I've said repeatedly that Israel had both the right and a duty to respond with force to the October 7th attacks. But Netanyahu keeps pushing the boundaries. Every time he does, many more thousands of innocent Palestinians die in the process.
Wait a minute. So Piers says that he's cool. I mean, he said it many times that we have a right to respond militarily, but then when we do, people get killed. Well, what do you think responding militarily means? Who exactly is going to tell what exactly that line is of fighting the bad guys who are entrenched amongst civilians that support them? And also this term that you say, innocent civilians. Well, how do you know exactly which civilians are innocent or not? Did you interview all of them? Do you know exactly what they believe? We have a war against a society that supports Hamas. I'm not saying that every single member of that society is a jihadist and a Hamasnik, a pro-Hamas fighter. But don't deny what the polls show, what the reality shows on the ground, that there's a lot of jihadis amongst the Gazan civilization population. Okay, so let's keep going with Piers. He's very confusing, right? He's like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And that's so Western. It's like, I want you to fight because I think it's right, but not too much because then people get hurt. And I'm a little bit concerned about that. Well, Piers, it doesn't work that way in the Middle East. You got to take care of business. And we have a business of fighting our enemies and not allowing jihadism, rockets, rape, murder to be on our borders. Those kind of folks cannot remain on our borders. Let's get back to Piers, see if he straightens it out.
After 4.5 months of failing to say what will happen to Gaza after the war, the Prime Minister has now published an insultingly short one-page plan. It says that if and when Hamas is eradicated, Gaza will be controlled by local officials with administrative experience, provided they have no connections to Hamas. Well, given that Hamas has run Gaza since 2006, exactly who those local administrators are is unclear. If Israel can't find anybody it deems suitable, Israel will remain in control.
Well, here I have to agree with Piers, right? He's right. It's ridiculous. We should not say that some Gazans are going to stay in control of Gaza. That is ridiculous. That is insulting. It's not going to work that way. It's not going to work that way. There's not going to be folks in Gaza that should rule it and control it. It should be Israel's to control. It should be Israel's to control. That doesn't mean that we won't have allies amongst the Arabs that live there, but Israel is going to control it, govern it, live there, and Arabs who have a decent feeling towards Israel, who want to be law-abiding, who want to be, loving citizens and residents of Israel, they'll be able to remain. But yeah, we should not say that we're going to figure out somebody else to give it to. And this is my critique all the time. We're always trying to find somebody else to hold on to our ancestral homeland. No, it's never going to work out. Every time we give it away, we give it to the terrorists. So let's just figure it out. So I agree with Piers. It's weird.
Frankly, that looks like a blueprint for continued occupation. And that will only manufacture...
Wait. Yes. Continued occupation. Yes. They say to me on these papers, they're like occupation. I'm like, yes. Okay. And I don't mean occupation in the military sense. I mean, this is our land. Yes, Piers. Get it through your British head that Israel is going to stay controlling and governing Gaza. Look at the map. Look at the map. Look how it looks like. Do you really think that Israel is going to look like it's toothless, like a big chunk of the map is just not going to be there? That doesn't make sense. And so I don't want anybody to lie to you, Piers. I just want to tell the truth. Israel plans to remain in Gaza. People like myself want to remain in Gaza forever. We will rule it. We will, in your language, occupy it. Of course, it's not occupation. It's our land, and we're the only ones suitable to govern the place. Let's get back to Piers. Maybe you can figure it out.
More of the radicalization that sparked this deadly war in the first place.
No, wait. Hold on. Before we get to former Prime Minister Bennett, Jewish control of Judea is not what sparked this conflict. Jewish control of Gaza is certainly not what sparked this conflict, because we walked out of Gaza. Remember that? See, Piers, you got to remember that. We left Gaza. Israel left Gaza. We gave it over to the PA. PA was taken over by Hamas. And then they planned a war against us and were shooting rockets at us the whole time. And finally, they made this big attack on us. So it's this has nothing to do with occupation, since we weren't actually occupying it. Actually, it's exactly the opposite. It's land giveaway that gives steam to the jihad to attack Israel. And so that way of thinking of walking away from the so-called occupation, i.e. land surrender, land giveaway, is a failure over and over again. We let the jihad take over, make a forward base in our ancestral land. That's dumb. Let's not do dumb things. And I guess, Piers doesn't understand that. Let's see how he talks with former Prime Minister Bennett.
Well, Naftali Bennett, the former Prime Minister of Israel, joins me now. Mr. Bennett, thank you very much indeed for coming back on the programme. When we last spoke...
Good to be here.
It was only about 3 weeks after the horrors of October the 7th. And you said in terms of Israel's response, it isn't about the numbers, deaths, it's about how we, Israel, get them, Hamas, out. Are you comfortable with how the war has been prosecuted since then?
The IDF is performing exceptionally well under the toughest circumstances in any war that I can recall, because we could have finished this war in 3 days if we were cavalier about civilian lives. But we're not. We care, and we do everything we can to prevent unnecessarily deaths of civilians. That's why it's taking time. It's going to take a few more months, but we are on track to remove Hamas from Gaza.
I mean, it's a bold statement to say you'll do that. Many people say that if you try and eliminate Hamas completely, then many tens or maybe hundreds of thousands more Palestinians will be killed and wounded in that process. And how is that going to stop future radicalization? Are you not just...
How is destroying Hamas going to stop future radicalization? I don't know. Maybe because they're the teachers of radicalism. I don't know, because maybe they just had a big success and everybody's looking to them and is like, wow, I want to be like them. Maybe fighting Nazis and destroying them stops the next generation from being Nazis. It's like the logic, the plain, simple logic is gone from Pierce's head here. He just doesn't he's like, well, how will destroy radicals stop radicalism? Because that's how it works, bro. That's exactly how it works. You have to strike hard at them, and then they don't come back. And if you allow them to remain, they will celebrate victory and get many more converts. It reminds me a little bit of the biblical story of Saul and the Amalekite king Agag. It's like Saul could not slay this king, and thereby Amalek perpetuated against the Jews. So it's like what you're really saying, Piers, is that you want this war to remain forever. You want the radical elements, the Nazis, to continue to survive because you're not willing to allow some percentage of people to be killed in this war, in this conflict. You want them to remain, and then you're like, you don't understand that this will bring more and more conflict. Basically, Piers, what you don't understand is that you're setting up a formula by which this conflict will rage on forever. And had we taken care of business right at the beginning, and if we would take care of business now, by the way, one of the ways to take care of business is to turn off the water, turn off the electricity, stop sending in food and medicine, and then the war will go much faster. We'll end it much faster because they'll have much less strength. And the hostage takers are going to have to come out of their tunnels. And then we could actually save a lot of human lives. If you're strong and tough in a short term, you could make the war last a much shorter amount of time. But you have to have that resolute intensity to fight the war properly.
Stirring up a massive problem for yourselves going forward.
No, quite the contrary. What we've learned from history is that when you are working with very radical ideologies, you first have to win, and then you can start recovering and rebuilding. You couldn't start the recovery of Germany without first bringing Germany or the Nazis to total surrender. Likewise here, we have to defeat Hamas, and then we can start the process of recovery.
How will you know when you've beaten Hamas?
When they come out and surrender with white flags, or we've killed them.
Good answer.
Why would they surrender? They've shown no sign of doing that.
What do you mean, why would they surrender? Because we got to defeat them. Piers, you got to come hang out in the Middle East a little bit more. You're just a little too, I don't know what studios you're in. I don't know where you're at, but you're a little too detached from the ground. Why would they surrender? Because we're going to make them surrender. Because we're going to cut them off. Because we are going to be resolute in defeating our enemies, just like the Nazis surrendered. It's really not so tricky. Even the Japanese surrendered, right? And they were a really formidable enemy that wasn't going to surrender, but they figured out a way to get them to surrender. And the point is that the enemy needs to be fought, and not in this handcuffed style that Piers would have us do.
No, there's quite hundreds already that have surrendered, perhaps already thousands, because when you know the army is closing on you, and now they're hunkered down underground in Rafah and hiding behind women and children, but it is closing on them, and they'll know. And as we've seen in other places, when they know that their death is imminent, they come out and surrender.
If thousands of Hamas have surrendered, where are they?
We've already interrogated over a couple of thousand of Hamas operatives, and yeah, that's what we do. They're in our custody.
Where are they in custody?
Why is that important to you, Piers? What are you trying to get at? They're out of the picture. The terrorists have been captured. You're right. Maybe we shouldn't have interrogated them or caught them. Maybe we should have finished them off on the battlefield. But the bottom line is that we have them. What's your problem? What are you trying to get to? What are you trying to figure out so you can go visit them and interview them? What's the deal?
In all kinds of places in Israel, in the Negev. Some of them are in Gaza. We prefer logistically to do it within Gaza, and then we move on.
Naftali, don't give them any unnecessary information. The media, God bless them, they're dangerous, and they could use that information in some ways that, we know that the media, some of the media like the AP, was complicit in some of the October 7th crimes, or some members of the AP. And so I wouldn't give them any information at all about, just be like, yeah, we have them, we're interrogating them, we're taking care of business.
Just to be clear, you're saying that thousands of Hamas terrorists have surrendered to the IDF and are being held in custody and being interrogated?
We've interrogated, I believe, over 3,000 operatives.
The best answer here would be like, yeah, next question. All right, next question. We don't have to give you information.
In varying degrees of involvement. Some are military Hamas, some are civilian Hamas, and we've learned a lot from that. That's another source of our being able to close on the leadership of Hamas.
What is a civilian Hamas? I mean, aren't they all terrorists?
Hamas has a civilian arm of governing Gaza and a military arm of conducting terror against Israel. You are right that they are intertwined, much like the Nazis. During the Nazi regime, there were also Nazi teachers, Nazi officials that dealt with Germany, but there were also the Nazis that conducted the Holocaust, the Shoah, and World War II. It's a
good answer. Good answer. I like that. That's a good answer. And I like that he threw in the word Shoah there. It was like a powerful, I don't know, it just rang kind of. It was good.
Government, Piers, I want to be very clear. Hamas has been governing Gaza for the past 15 years.
Yeah, no, I'm obviously aware of that. I think the point of concern for the global community that's been mounting, as you're well.
What was that? What was that? The global community. You see that that's something that folks use. Are like when they want to, when they want to get started, when they want to mess with Israel, they're like a global community. There's this global concern. You know what? There's a lot of people around the world that are not on your side, Piers, in Brazil and in Argentina and in Eastern Europe and in India and all over the world. And in the United States of America, there are millions and millions of people who are not on the side of trying to shrink and weaken Israel. So don't give me this global community. Like we, the big wigs, the people in the suits, we're concerned about your health. Do me a favor. That is such colonialist language. Do you hear that? Do you hear the white colonialist side of Piers Morgan? Really, you can hear the tone. It's such a haughtiness. We are concerned about things. Well, give us a little report. All right, let's see what happens.
Aware is that it's now been reported that as many as 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, with another 70,000 injured. This is out of a population of just 2 million, of whom half of them are children under 18. And again, it comes back to what is proportionate. I understand Israel's desire to want to get rid of Hamas, but at what cost? The sheer scale of the deaths of young, innocent Palestinians must be of great concern to you, isn't it?
Before he even answers the question, like how long are we going to be hit in the head, over the head, with this narrative of proportionality? Nobody fights a proportional war. It's not a game of tennis. It's not a game of football. We don't have these kind of like rules and tit for tats. Oh, you scored a goal. Now it's time for me to score a goal. It's not like that. It's not like that. We are victims of a horrific attack, and not just a horrific attack, a horrific plan to destroy Israel. And so now we're fighting back fully. Okay? We're not here to play a tit for tat game. We're here to win. We're here to win by 100 points and 1,000 points. We're here to make sure that not one hair on a child gets hurt. We're here to have zero tolerance against the enemies of Israel. And this little game is like, you see it again now. The international community is concerned. What about proportionality and all these things? And all these, what is all this language? What does it really amount to? How to weaken Israel. That's all he's trying to say. How do I keep you guys small? How do I keep you weak? How do I keep you from being too strong of a defense in favor of the safety of Jews? He wants a perpetual war. Maybe he doesn't know that, but Piers Morgan is talking about a perpetual war that will endanger not just the Jews, but also all the combatants who are brainwashed and put into it. And so hundreds and thousands of Arabs will be killed throughout a continuous war if we don't take care of business. But Piers Morgan wants proportionality, i.e. a stalemate, i.e. allow the Hamas to win, continue to govern Gaza, continue to make war, more people die on this side and that side. That's not actually good for the world at all. But Piers Morgan knows a little bit better, maybe. He is the world.
Yeah, we are concerned with unnecessary or deaths, first of our own people and then also of citizens. But these deaths, I wouldn't call them unnecessary. I would call them collateral damage that is part of war. And I have to say that in Israel's case, we're conducting war at one of the lowest ratios of collateral damage. I believe roughly 2.5 versus every terrorist. Compared to 6, 7, 8, and 9 in other wars. Look, there's no magic here. This whole thing could go away right now if Hamas lays down its arms and releases the hostages. We have really no choice. You had this army of radical Islamic zombies attacking Israel on October 7th, raping, severing heads, burning families because they were brainwashed with radical Islamic ideology, and they say they're going to do it again. So obviously, we really have no choice, and we're going to conduct this as far as we need. I also want to tell you something that is actually news. From our intelligence now, we know that prior to the October 7th attack, some of the Hamasniks asked the question, according to Sharia, you're not allowed to just murder people. So they asked, how can we do it? Hamas brought in clerics to give them a special fatwa that said, because you are Hamas warriors, you are allowed to murder civilians, women and children. You can go ahead and do that freely. This is what we're working against, and obviously we have to uproot all of Hamas until they're gone.
Okay, I think that's
But you've just admitted that you're.
I think that's a very fair answer. And I like the term zombies, frankly. When October 7th hit, the thing that I was talking about is fighting back the jihad zombies. And that's what they came at. They came in as just like killing machines. And I like the language of we have no choice. We really have to fight this war. I would say that we should, make sure that there's no jihad zombies on our borders and certainly not inside our country, and that we should declare a war against jihadism in our land. And we wouldn't be the first. You'd be surprised. Many Arab countries, like Egypt, like Saudi Arabia, like the UAE, they are intolerant of the jihad because they know what the jihad could do to their regimes. So I wish we would be even more bold in saying what we stand for, which is that absolutely we will not accept this ideology, not only in our land, but on the borders of our land.
Killing Hamas civilians.
No, I said we're killing Hamas. And unfortunately, as in every war in history, there's also civilians that die because Hamas explicitly or deliberately hides behind the civilians in the most cowardly fashion. Notwithstanding that we're facing this incredible challenge, we're managing to do it at a much lower ratio of civilian
but you keep
loss
saying,
than in other wars.
Mr. Bennett, you keep saying that, but the bottom line is this. More Palestinians have been killed in 4 months than the total number of serving Ukrainians in the war against Russia, which has now entered its 3rd year. How can you say that this is, pro rata, one of the best executed wars in history?
What does Ukraine have to do with this? What do the numbers in Ukraine have to do with anything? What is this numbers game that we're even talking about? We're fighting a war. Period. See, I really am against too much talking here. I would just be like, we got to fight this war. We're going to fight them until we win. Sorry. You could either understand that or not understand that, but we are not going to allow this kind of stuff to be here. And what is this talk about numbers? How many numbers people are killed? What are you, a mathematician of death over here? What is your deal? You know what I mean? There's no numbers discussion. We're doing our best. I would say we're doing our best to make sure that non-combatants are not hurt. We're doing our best. But at the end of the day, that society declared war against us, not an organization, but a society. And we're fighting to get rid of the organization and people who hold beliefs of jihadism in that society. That's what we're doing. I don't want to talk numbers with you. That's what I would say. It's very important with press sometimes to be like, no, I'm not answering those questions. I'm not getting to numbers with you. I'm not talking about numbers. I'm talking about a war. We got a war. We'll deal with the numbers. You're not going to be the numbers oversight. You're not the ombudsman of proper death numbers in our war. We will decide what that war is. People started, how many people are going to die? They started with us. They wanted to kill us and destroy us. They called for the destruction of Israel. And so we're going to destroy that organization and the people that follow it. Pretty simple, right? Really, we should really make things a little bit simpler.
When you have that comparison of the 2 wars that are currently raging.
Well, you're comparing apples and oranges. Here, we're facing an enemy whose desire is to maximize not only the number of Israelis dead, but of their own civilians, precisely so Piers Morgan can ask me that question. It's a very cynical organization. We're not magicians. There's no magic here. If anyone has a better plan to submit to tell us how to eradicate Hamas, bring it on. We'll go ahead and do it. Without that, short of that, we're going to have to pursue this. Just like Britain and America and the Soviet Union pursued Nazi Germany until total victory. We have to have total victory.
That comparison.
Wow, that was a strong answer that he gave there, and I really like the part where he says Hamas wants a lot of civilians dead, so that you, Piers Morgan, could give us a hard time. So true, and that's really to understand that Hamas operates in both when they are killing us, they're like, yeah, we're killing them. And then when we kill them, they're like, oh, they're killing us. And they're good at both kinds of propaganda, of being the professional jihadi conquerors and murderers, or the professional victims. And you, Piers Morgan, are going to jump right at that. And when they throw you that bone, you're going to jump right at it, and you're going to attack Israel for being too strong, too big, because they're the victims. Right on. Very good answer, former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett.
Is not accurate in the sense that there's never been a conflict like this, a war like this, waged against a population where half of the population is under 18. I mean,
what is this guy smoking? Really, where is he coming from? There hasn't been a war like this. There's been many wars like this. What do you think Vietnam was, and many other wars had exactly this makeup and this formula. And most importantly, who cares? Okay, so now we have a new war. These guys are fighting using the tactics that they have, and this is not our first war with Gaza. Everybody's got to remember that. This is our fourth war with Gaza. Of course, we should have never left Gaza, and people like myself were telling everybody and leaders that if we leave, we're going to have to fight a war just like this, wars just like this. And so that's another thing Piers has got to realize. This is a recurring war. It's not some kind of unique thing in history that's happening right now. It's actually happened many times, and we've had to shoot and defend ourselves now, I think at least 4 times. But sadly, we've allowed our enemy to become really entrenched, dig up to create those tunnels, and now to hide behind civilians, and of course hide behind the abductees. Let's see what Bennett says.
That in itself makes this a very different type of war. That is why so many children are getting killed. That is why this collateral damage, as you call it, is almost uniquely horrific in Gaza, because half the population are children.
Well, as I said, if any country in the world...
The children, see, Jews are killing children. Does that sound familiar to you? Does that ring any kind of bell? You Israelis are killing children. Does that sound like anything? Sounds to me like a medieval blood libel. That's the narrative right now. You're killing children. You guys are killing children. That's what he has to say. And you'd think that Piers Morgan would know a little bit better about the efforts that are being done to defend civilians, and the fact that Hamas uses children. And I think that the numbers are all phooey anyway. But what is this line? It's the old blood libel. You Jews are just killing children. You're out there killing children. And if you hear it, it's like again a kind of Christian, old medieval type of messaging. You kill a lot of children. You're not proportional. We the grown-ups who know how the Middle East should behave. We have what to say about this. And so it's really very classic memes, classic tones that we're hearing here from Piers Morgan.
World would be willing to live next to Hamastan that explicitly says right now that they're going to conduct more October 7th massacres again and again and again. If we don't eradicate them, then tell me who that is. Because again, we have absolutely no choice here but to win. And the best way to make this whole misery go away is to accelerate the pace of this victory and not tie Israel's hands behind our back. The longer it takes, the more losses there will be. We're being cautious about it, but I won't be reprimanded by anyone for defending my children, for defending my nation. I fought in wars. We hate war. Israelis do not like war. We didn't start this war. It came and hit us out of left field, and we were reminded that we're surrounded by the craziest terror organizations on earth. We didn't choose this. They started, they are continuing, and it can all go away if they lay down their arms. The only organization, the only people that are responsible for this is Hamas. And I also have to say, unfortunately, I would have loved to say that Hamas has hijacked the Palestinian population. But the facts are that Hamas won in democratic elections. Out of 132 seats, they won an absolute majority of 76 seats, and they were elected by their own people. That's the government that they chose, a government that attacked and did these heinous things and raped our daughters and burned families alive. People tend to forget that. This is not to say that we will go and deliberately hurt civilians, but unfortunately, after 20 years of brainwashing, many Palestinians support these sort of massacres. They say Jews are pigs, Jews are the Satan, we need to kill them.
I don't think there's anything for me to really add to that. I just think that Naftali Bennett's doing a great job explaining the truth, and I think he's doing it with passion. Okay, I may not necessarily like the policies that he implemented when he was prime minister, but I certainly respect the fact that he's out there fighting the narrative war and giving Piers Morgan a good run. All right, I think we've had enough. A lot of good stuff here, and I want to bless you folks to continue to have strength and to continue to fight for Israel. Thank you very much for watching Yishai Fleisher TV. Please subscribe to our channel, hit that little bell, and we'll keep you updated of when our new videos come out. God bless you. Be strong and safe, and with God. Shalom.